Hey there, got a super special video for you guys today. It's gonna be all about our compost system here at Raleigh City Farm, and Gene is gonna be explaining the whole system because he's really set this up and he runs it. So we're gonna talk about how we have the compost bin set up, how he manages the compost, and also a DIY trommel he uses to separate the compost. So a lot of cool stuff in this one. Let's get into it.
We've got a crew, a Wednesday night crew. There are some other crews that come through and cutting back the plants and weeding in the flower beds, and then the interns between the harvesting and the crop residue on the floor of the wash pack house. It all comes in different times, different amounts. So here we're just doing a compost as you go. We're not trying to save greens and browns and then once a week put it together. I found if you just start piling it in your first bin, it's going to start heating up. It's going to start automatically composting down. And then since I'm not here 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, watching over each batch that comes in, it's just going to be as you go. And what I do is when I start flipping it, I'll go down towards the end and take some of the compost that's pretty well broken down, bring it back here to the beginning, and that helps jumpstart everything. And I found, because I do it at my place too, that it seems to get everything going a little quicker, heating up. One thing I use to help with the heat is using black plastic. For one, here in the south, and being here in the sun here at the farm, it's going to dry out quickly. So the black plastic does keep the moisture in. Now at my house, I'm in the shade, so I don't have the problem with that, but I do like to keep the moisture in. Even during the winter, if it gets dry or whatnot, it helps just regulate the moisture in the compost. So what I do is I start to incorporate the new stuff coming in. I go down the line towards the end and I'll bring back some of the fairly composted stuff and just spread it on the top. You'll see it kind of woody bits and whatnot, and then grab some new stuff and just spread that out.
All right, so the first bin is really just the mix of all the inputs. The second is really where you start to make your mix.
Right, because I really have no control as it comes in. It will start heating up some, but this is where I really can start doing the lasagna layers in here. And I've got a hose. Got a hose right here. I can keep it watered down if it needs water. I do have a little compost boogie brew, which is a can of beer, a can of Coke, and some ammonia. And that just helps feeds the microbes and help get the pile going a little quicker, getting it hot. By the time I've flipped it over, this be bin number 6, you'll see it really starting to break down. Some woody stuff. Some of it breaks pretty easy. You can tell it's breaking down like that right there. You can tell it's really starting to break down. Now, for it to really compost completely, it'd probably take a year or so. Well, I don't have a whole year, but I've got a tool to help me recycle the woody stuff into the first bin to help jumpstart it. So what I do, I flip it all over and you'll see this last bin, it's even more broken down. But we still got to get the woody stuff out. And that's what I'm going to show you now. Here's the tool I've come up with to get those woody bits out of the compost. It's a cement mixer with a trash can that has holes in it. This one has 1/2-inch hardware cloth in it. And it's a trommel. Trommels were used back in the gold rush days to get the big rocks out, sort the big rocks from little rocks. And here's how I'd operate it. All right, what this does, it screeds out the finer stuff, and the bigger stuff comes out the end of the trash can. And this is what I put back into the first couple of bins to help get the compost started again, or make it go a little quicker. This right here, I use as potting soil. Start my starts, use it in my gardens, and it's pretty fine. Like I said, I could put another trash can with 1/4-inch hardware cloth and make it a little bit finer.
That still looks pretty good the way it is, though.
Yeah. The setup is a cement mixer I got from Harbor Freight. Runs about $200. Definitely use that 20% off coupon. Husky trash can. I think new, they're like $35. Sometimes you can find them used on the side of the road or whatever. I just put holes in them. The hardware, all the buckles and turnbuckles, probably another $25, $30. And then a little bit of hardware cloth. And what's nice is I can easily take it apart, use it as a cement mixer, but also I can get another trash can and use 1/4-inch hardware cloth, just make another setup, pop it on if I want something finer than this. Now typically I will get worms coming out of the end. I take the worms, put it in a bucket, and I try and concentrate it into my last 1 or 2 bins, trying to get some more worm castings, just trying to make it a little richer.
All right, so Gene, this is like 4 months old, is that what you said?
Yeah, about 4 months old.
That's awesome. And so all this stuff that's coming out of the end, where's that going to go? Somewhere
that's going to go back into the beginning.
Okay.
Like what I was mixing in, I'll use this to mix it in. This already has, you know, the decomposing microbes and all of that, so it really jump starts my compost process.
Gene, this is a very cool system, also pretty inexpensive. Talk about some more of the little intricacies here.
Right. I found a guy on YouTube built one of these. He used a different drum set where he had to have support on the end. With this, just a trash can, I use a ratchet strap back here where I can, while this does set the angle, I can, with the ratchet strap, move it back and forth just a little bit. Like if it's coming out too quickly, I can pop it up just a hair, let it spend a little more time in the trommel before it kicks out the big stuff.
Makes sense. The angle is how fast it's going to be moving
right
through.
The compost, I try and dry it out a little bit. I keep a roof on it instead of plastic to dry it out, and I try to get the clogs in here to break up a little bit before it shoots out the end, and try and capture more of it if I can. I feel good when I'm getting about 50-50, because if you're getting less than that, it hasn't sat and decomposed enough.
Okay, and then these wheelbarrows, you need really low wheelbarrows?
Low wheelbarrows, otherwise you're going to have to set everything up higher, and you're going to be shoveling it in higher.
Makes sense, more ergonomic.
Yes.
All right, Gene, it looks like you dumped out an old fishing net or something here. What's
It does, but it's actually what's come out of the trommel, or what I found in the compost as I flipped it. It's amazing. If you just watch what you're doing, you can find all kinds of trash. Sometimes it will go through the whole system and come out the end of the trommel before I see it, which is fine. But this goes back to the fact that if you're a farmer and wanting to take care of your soil and your property, don't leave stuff you're using on the ground. Try and get rid of your trash or recycle it, whatever the item is, if you should recycle or just throw it away. But tools.
So you found pruners in our compost?
No, I found it on the ground,
okay.
half buried. But I found glass in the compost. You're going to get it, some of that being in an urban farm, but some of it you won't. This definitely you'll find at every farm. In fact, today, when I got here and setting everything up, 1 or 2 shovelfuls in, this pops out of the trommel. No reason, take a second, pick it up, and reuse it. I mean, these will last you quite a while. They're not going to decompose, obviously. The compost system is a really simple system I set up using pallets. I've had people tell me, you got to have airflow. Well, even though I put wooden slats in here to keep the compost falling out, there is air coming in. In fact, Charles Dowding's system, he has plywood. So this does have a little bit of airflow coming in and out like you need for the compost. But the big thing I like are using slats.
Yeah, that's crucial for being able to shovel it out.
Right. I've seen some people where they have it in 2 sections. This we can do 1 at a time, building up and emptying it out so it doesn't all fall out. It also is a lot easier for the people here, all the volunteers, adding stuff to it. You can keep it low, and then as the first bin fills up, you can put more slats in for them and keep it all in there. But it's a real simple system. Like I said, with pallets you can typically get it for free, and find perhaps some other scrap wood.
Well, this sort of seems like almost like a scaled up version of what could be at someone's house. But like, how many hours a week do you think you spend doing this?
I would say overall 2 or 3 hours. Now I might have to spend another hour or so a week if we've got more crop residue and weeds being cut down and brought into the compost system. Sometimes I do get a lot coming in, and I'll end up composting it just on the ground, especially the more woody stalks and stuff.
You also chip some stuff too, right?
We have a chipper that I will chip up some of the stuff, and that helps break that down quicker. But what I try to do is, bin number 1, I try and keep that as empty as possible and just keep everything being flipped over and coming right down to the end.
Besides visual checking of the compost, are you checking temperatures along the way, or what are you looking for while it's composting?
I do. I have a long compost thermometer. I'd like it to be at 130 degrees or more for hot composting. Just sitting here, if it gets up to about 100 degrees, and being here in the sun and the black plastic also helps raise the temperature, especially during the summer. But winter months too, it'll capture some of that heat from the sun. But at 100 degrees, that's the high end for worms to be in there, but everything is composting. And one neat thing about this, if I were not to mess with it at all, the worms will come in and help with the decomposition of everything, as well as all the roly-poly bugs and all the other critters. So it will decompose on its own, but I do like to try and get a hot temperature, help get rid of the weed, kill the weed seeds and other pathogens. So you do want to do about at least 130 degrees for a couple days, and typically that's not a problem. We have a lot of nitrogen we end up going into the compost, and that really heats things up.
Gene, you literally and figuratively wear lots of different hats at the farm here. Talk a little bit about your experience and sort of how it's been this year for you.
I've enjoyed being here since February. To be honest with you, I'd been following you on YouTube, and that's the reason why I came here. I liked how you were farming. Not only nice looking produce, but the farm looked nice as well. And yes, if you are a farmer, you do wear a lot of hats on the farm. I don't mind wearing a lot of hats on the farm either. At my place, it's a one-man show, so I wear a lot of hats there too. One thing, being a farmer, you got to realize it's not just all about growing produce. You've got marketing, you got the business end, you've got the back end like compost. One thing with compost and a compost system, that's probably the first thing you ought to build on a farm, because that's your waste system. You're going to have waste before you do produce. Like February 1st, what did we harvest first? Weeds that went into the compost system.
Absolutely.
So yeah, a farmer wears lots of hats. And I've enjoyed working here and working with you. We've had a lot of good times here, and but we did a lot of hard work.
Absolutely, and I think anyone who's been watching this channel knows they've seen you in a lot of videos, and you're doing a lot of the behind the scenes work that,
right,
you know, you're not out there necessarily planting and harvesting, but a lot of the infrastructure and systems have been, you know, really, you know, you and your efforts. So
right.
I really appreciate that, Jim.
Yeah, and I've come up on weekends, you know, somebody will call, say there's a water leak or whatever, and come up and fix it. That's what a farmer does. And like I said, it's not all in front of the camera picking produce, but there are other things you have to do and other hats you have to wear, and you got to remember to wear the other hats.
All right, well, Gene, thanks for everything you've done so far and in the future.
I've had a good time and enjoy all the bloopers too.